Yo, it's Big Ant the spokesman, and we're back again with another edition of Urban Politicians TV. Stay sharp, stay on your pivot at all times, because this one right here is getting real messy, and you won't believe how deep it actually goes. So look, Floyd Mayweather has been having one of those months where every time you check the headlines, it's something else tied to his name, and not in a good way. The latest wave coming in is accusations and legal pressure, where reports say he's now got charges he may have to answer for in court. According to what's being reported, he allegedly wrote a bounced check for around $200,000 tied to a luxury resale shop in Las Vegas, and they say there was already an existing relationship there, which makes it even more complicated. They reportedly tried to give him time to fix it, tried reaching out, but ended up hitting a wall when Floyd didn't respond, and it was linked to a Wells Fargo account. Now, once that story hit the internet, you already know how fast it spread across blogs and news pages everywhere. But that's just one side of it, because there's another lawsuit stacking on top of all this, involving major fight deals that never played out the way promoters say they were supposed to. According to an explosive legal filing, CSI Entertainment claims they paid Floyd Mayweather millions up front, around $4.5 million total, for exclusive rights to organize mega exhibition fights involving Mike Tyson and Manny Pacquiao. And here's where it gets even wilder. The deal allegedly included a Tyson exhibition and a Pacquiao rematch scenario, both tied to Floyd's name and his undefeated legacy being put on the line in promotional terms. CSI says the money went through his management side, First Apex Ventures, and that Floyd himself allegedly signed off on everything. But now they're claiming he backed out and moved in a completely different direction. They point to the timing too, saying right after receiving an additional advance payment, Floyd reportedly announced a different fight entirely with Greek boxer Mike Zambitis instead of Tyson, which blindsided them. On top of that, they also claim he secretly entered another agreement involving a Netflix-streamed event with Pacquiao at the Sphere in Las Vegas, which they say violates their exclusivity. CSI is saying they already invested serious money and promotion into building both fights, and losing the rights caused major damage to their business plans. Now they're not just asking for damages or reimbursement, they're also pushing the court to block Floyd from moving forward with the Zambitis fight and potentially stop the Netflix event from happening altogether. And just to add another layer, reports also mention Mayweather is currently suing First Apex Ventures and a former manager for a much larger figure, claiming fraud in the process. So this whole situation is turning into a legal back and forth on multiple fronts at the same time. We reached out for Floyd's side, but so far there's no official response on record. And honestly, when you look at all of this stacked together, it raises real questions about what's actually happening behind the scenes in these big money exhibition fight deals, especially when names like Floyd, Tyson, and Pacquiao are involved. I posted it on social media, and the reaction was instant. People were like, "Hold on, Floyd and Mike Tyson? That doesn't even add up. What is boxing doing at this point?" And honestly, that confusion is exactly what a lot of people are feeling right now. Because let's be real, everybody remembers Floyd saying he was done. He made it clear. He walked away from boxing on top, undefeated, financially straight, and basically said he didn't need the sport anymore. So now the question is different. Why are we even hearing his name tied to full-contact fights at 49 years old, especially against someone like Manny Pacquiao? That part alone is enough to make people raise their eyebrows. Now, Floyd did respond online and pushed back on the allegations about the $200K watch situation, calling it false and saying people are just running narratives. But here's where it gets deeper. He also framed it like all of this attention is actually helping him, saying the media is just keeping his name alive and pointing at him unfairly as a black man being targeted. But I had to look at the bigger picture here, because you can't ignore the fact that the documents are out there, the lawsuits are real filings, and in some cases he's already had to send legal teams to respond. On top of that, there are multiple legal battles floating around, one reportedly tied to a massive $350 million dispute, another around $175 million involving former business partners. When you stack that together, it's not just one random headline anymore. It becomes a pattern of high-level financial conflict playing out in public. Then you've got reports floating that there are IRS issues in the millions, plus old claims about child support and other financial obligations being mentioned again in documents and court conversations. And look, whether every claim ends up being true or not, the reality is once lawsuits hit the system, everything becomes visible, everything gets examined, and everything gets magnified. That's just how the legal spotlight works. And that's why people start digging into the money side. Because once filings show up, questions about spending, lifestyle, and cash flow always follow. Some reports even claim he's spending anywhere from $1 to $3 million a month maintaining his lifestyle, which is insane if you really think about it long-term without active fights. So when you hear talk about $6 million disputes or promoters chasing money tied to canceled fights, people naturally start asking, what actually happened behind the scenes here? Because if the fights didn't happen, somebody feels like they got played, and now it's heading to court. And I'm going to be honest, this isn't about celebrating anyone's downfall or acting like Floyd is broke, because he clearly isn't in that position. But there's a difference between being wealthy and being financially structured for a certain lifestyle, and that's where the conversation gets interesting. Because if you go back, even people like 50 Cent were warning years ago that when you're used to a certain level of spending and income flow, things can get complicated when the active money stops.
Really going? Yeah, that's what you think. It's fight, get the money, spend the money, fight. All that money. It's been 2 years. So is it just his overhead is so high on a day-to-day, month-to-month? Like I don't even want to talk about it. Like with the lifestyle, that money's gone. Trust me. Now it's like you call him, he'll be at your local hosting in a nightclub because you need that action right now.
We've seen Floyd take fight after fight over the years, so now everybody's sitting back asking the same question: what is really going on behind the scenes with him right now? And that's where the conversation starts to shift, because whenever there's this much noise, people automatically assume there has to be some kind of fire behind all that smoke. And yeah, you've got the watch situation, the lawsuits, the constant financial headlines. It all starts stacking up and people begin connecting dots, whether they're fully confirmed or not. Now, let's be real. Floyd has always been flashy, always over the top with how he moves, and nobody can take that away from him. But according to what's being reported, there are claims he's dealing with a pattern of constantly spending rather than scaling back or liquidating assets in a more strategic way. Instead of tightening things up or downsizing when needed, the narrative being pushed is that he's maintaining a high-cost lifestyle, leaning into loans and financial leverage to keep things flowing. And when you add things like borrowing against luxury jewelry, that's where interest, fees, and long-term pressure start building in the background, quietly but aggressively. Now, gambling also gets mentioned in these types of conversations, and if that's part of the equation too, then you're talking about even more money moving out the door with no guarantees coming back. That combination, high spending, loans, lifestyle maintenance, it's exactly the kind of cycle people are pointing at when they say something doesn't add up. At the same time, let's not rewrite history here. This is still one of the greatest boxers to ever do it, a guy who reportedly generated well over $1 billion throughout his career. So when you hear current financial tension being mentioned, it naturally creates shock because you're comparing that past level of money to what's being reported now. And that's why this story keeps pulling attention, because it doesn't feel like a simple headline. It feels like a bigger financial shift happening in real time. But for now, that's where things stand based on what's being reported. If anything changes, we'll break it down again. Tell me what you think, because this one definitely has people talking.